Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I am bringing you my August wrap up and I'm so excited to talk about these books. I read 11 books this month, 3 of which were part of a comic series, so I read those all in one day. So it was actually kind of a slow month for me. I did a bit of traveling this month and didn't get a whole lot of time to read. And I also read some pretty decent sized books, which we will get into. But I'm super excited to talk about these. I hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, let's just jump right into it. So we're gonna start with like the thriller horror section of this wrap up. I read 3 books in that area. So the first book I'm going to be talking about is The Silence Factory by Bridget Collins. I was originally really intrigued by this cover and had to know more about it. So this actually follows 2 kind of points of view. One is being told through these old letters of the wife of a man who discovered these spiders off some island in Greece, and these spiders end up coming into play later down the line when generations later it's invented this kind of silk that comes from the spiders that creates fabric that expels all sound. So like if you have curtains in your window, the room will be dead silent, like you won't be able to hear like traffic outside or anything. It's like a magical kind of thing. But the opposite side of the curtains, it like reflects all the noise back, and so people in this town where this silk is made are like going insane. It's a very consumerist kind of story, and it delves into not necessarily consumerism, but the people who are willing to make money off of something like this and what they will keep secret and all of that stuff. I really liked this. It was really interesting, and I kind of liked the whole alternate history aspect of it with this kind of magical seeming invention. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I gave this one 4 stars, and yeah, I think it just it wasn't quite what I was anticipating it being without getting into any spoilers, but I did really like it. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. So next up, we are going to go into one I just finished the other day, and I kind of briefly mentioned in my last video in my book haul, but that is Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. I was so excited to start reading this. As soon as I got it, I knew that it was going to be one I started right away. And if you didn't watch my book haul, Savvy is the one who sent this to me, as well as many other books, as a gift, and I loved this. I gave it 5 stars. It was fantastic. It was fantastic. This is kind of a retelling, a re-inspired story of Carmilla, which is the vampire story that inspired Dracula. And in the end, I was reading the author's note, and the author said that she got a lot of her inspiration from books like The Woman in White. What were some of the other ones where I was like, no, yeah, that like makes total sense, and I so very much see it in there. Oh, like Great Expectations with what's her name, Miss Havisham, which it very much gave Great Expectations in that sense. So Dracula, obviously, The Woman in White, The Moonstone, and a lot of like old Victorian kind of gothic novels like this, and or like that. And this definitely reflects a lot of those. You can see a lot of that influence in here. So this is the story of a woman who in 1880 or 1880s, she is married to her husband, and they witness, or they see a crashed carriage, and there's a woman in the wreckage, and they save her and they take her back to their house to take care of her. And the woman, our main character, is trying to be like an upstanding lady of society in this world, and her husband and her have secrets that, well, he has secrets that she is helping him keep, and Carmilla is really kind of just fucking everything up. And I really liked this. I liked that there was a lot of metaphor surrounding hunger and want and stuff like that. I think it was a really good, a really interesting study on that, and I really liked it. I was not the biggest fan, I'm gonna have to reread Carmilla, but I was not the biggest fan of how little, not how little, but I wish we had seen more of Carmilla. We do see a lot of her, but I just wish we'd gotten more, and I think that's like my only gripe. So I obviously still gave it 5 stars, and I loved it. But yeah, this was fantastic, and definitely a female revenge story, and a very good one at that. Also, side note, the cover of this, I knew I had to have this book because The Nightmare is my favorite painting, like, of all time, and this is The Nightmare, or part of it rather, but I just loved it, and I knew having The Nightmare on there would be, I'm like, I know this book's gonna be good. And I think the painting as the cover really fits the vibe and the overall messaging of it, so just love that. And the next book I have, I don't own a copy of. I randomly found this in the library under the like new releases shelf, and I just had to pick it up, and that is Beartooth by Callan Wink, something like that. I think his first name's Callan. Anyway, I picked this up because this takes place right outside of Yellowstone, and in fact the author and kind of like where it takes place is, the author is from Livingston, Montana, and that is where I went when I went to Montana to visit my sister. We stayed in Livingston, and so I was like, I know that city and I know Yellowstone, and so I was like, I really want to read this. I'm very intrigued by that. And this was really, really good. I'm kind of surprised. This is a kind of a slow-paced, slow burn, atmospheric thriller. So this follows 2 men who, they're brothers, they are orphaned. Their father recently just died, and the main character is taking care of his younger brother, who is like kind of like not fully there. They live off the grid right outside of Yellowstone, and they end up getting an in-person call. A caller comes to their door and offers them money, a lot of money, in exchange for some risky business in Yellowstone. And it's very, very slow burn. You get about halfway through maybe, and you're like, okay, well, what's the rest of this book gonna be? And then that's where it really starts. So very fascinating, and I loved it. I loved the setting. It was very detailed in the way it was told. Like, you really felt like you were there, and you felt like you were in the woods with them, and it was really fantastic in that sense. So if you're looking for something for like that for fall, I would highly suggest this one. It's actually very good. So yeah, I really like this. I give it 4 stars. I think it was just a little like, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think just to me, I didn't like it, was that it just didn't read like a normal thriller horror book would. It was very much like a two-act book, which I don't really know how I feel about. So maybe rereading it, I'd like it more, but yeah, just very interesting. But I give it 4 stars. I did love it. It just wasn't a 5-star read. Okay, next let's get into my comics, which everybody's gonna know what they are because I only read one comic series, and that is Saga. So I read volumes 10, 11, and 12, which are, I recently learned this word, so I'm going to use it. It is the most recent arc of this series. So I guess every 3 volumes is like its own arc, which makes sense because it's like its own kind of story in this big story. And this is the most recent set, and the newest ones since the creators went on hiatus, and they are back on hiatus. So not necessarily a hiatus, they're taking another just little break, So I'm not sure when we're gonna get the next ones, but yeah, I gave all 3 of these 5 stars. For those of you who don't know, Saga is a high fantasy comic book series. High fantasy, high sci-fi. Like, I'm talking, let me try and find a good, this is one of my favorite spreads, I think, in the whole series. It's like another ship. It's supposed to be a pirate ship, and I love, love, love this spread. So very, very much high fantasy vibes. All the characters are so unique and different and have different things to them. I'm trying to find maybe a good example of that. A good example is honestly right on the cover. You see like all these different types of creatures, and they're super cool. But this is following the story of a young girl right here. Her name is Hazel, and she is the daughter of 2 people who like fell in love, but they were on opposite sides of the war, and basically their people are fighting each other, and she is not supposed to exist. So now like everybody in the universe is out to kill her because she's not good for publicity, her being the love child of 2 warring species. And so it follows her and what her and her family get up to and the people she meets and all that good stuff. And it starts with her as a baby, and now she's 12, and I feel like I've grown up with her. And I just love this series so much. It's so fun, it's so heartbreaking, and I feel like I really get to know all of the characters through it. So yeah. So the next book I'm going to talk about, we're going to get into the fantasy stuff now. So I finished 1 series. Actually, I finished 2 series, kind of. But anyway, the first one, my first read technically of the month. What is on the spine? Ew, gross. It's like sticky. Ew. My first read of the month was this. I finished, it's, ew, get it off my finger. Okay, I finished The Bone Ship's Wake. This is the 3rd book in the Tide Child trilogy, which starts with the Bone Ships, which, funny enough, I've mentioned this before, this has been on my TBR for like 5 years, and I've been like unhauling it, but I just haven't been able to like get rid of it. And so I was like finally like, fuck it, I'm gonna read it. And I liked it. I loved it, in fact, and I read the next 2. So this is the conclusion to the tale. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. The ending of a fantasy series will never fail to make me emotional. I didn't cry. I don't think I cried during this one. I don't think I did. Usually I will cry. This one I don't think made me cry, but I did love it. This wraps up like you'd imagine any fantasy story would. It's very sad and emotional, but yeah, I really love this story. It's the story of a man who is sentenced essentially to death on these bone ships. Or on a bone ship in the first one, and it's not necessarily a death sentence, but it's a sentence where he is on this death ship where nobody is allowed off ever. Like you're dying on that ship, and they're kind of outcasts and seen as lesser than everybody because this is their sentence. And he takes it upon himself, along with the help of the captain or the deck mother, to make this the greatest goddamn fleet in the whole universe, the whole world in this case. And he does, and it's fantastic. I love this series. I love the characters. I love the creatures. There's creatures in this one, and they're so fun, and I just really liked it, and I'm so glad I gave this series a chance, because I feel like a new person with a nice pirate fantasy under my belt. So now I can go on to bigger and better, which I'm not sure how that's possible, but we'll see. But yeah, this was a chunky boy. This was like actually only a little over 500 pages, which is not too bad. But yeah, I really like this one. Give it 5 stars, and I highly suggest this series to anybody who is interested in fantasy or pirates or anything like that. And the final series I finished, we will start with actually the novellas that I read, which were I will throw them up. Well, we'll do one at a time. We'll throw up one. So the first one I read was Six Scorched Roses. These books are all by Carissa Broadbent, by the way, part of the Crowns of Nyaxia series. And Six Scorched Roses follows Lilith and Vale, who are characters we see a brief glimpse of in the first couple books, and we see more of in the following duology. But this is their story. It's a little over 100 pages, I think, maybe 150. And I really liked this. When I was first reading The Serpent and the Wings of Night, that duology, I was reading about Lilith and Vale, and I'm like, I would just love to see their story. Like, I was very intrigued by them, and obviously I think that's on purpose, that Carissa Broadbent sought, or she kind of played into their characters, probably knowing that there was going to be a story about them and that they were going to be important. But I really was intrigued by them, and so I'm really glad that we got a novella for them. I really liked this one. Lilith is a human, like, scientist, and Vale is this big, scary vampire on the edge of town, and she needs his help to cure her town of this curse that has been inflicted upon it. And I really like this one. It was a lot of fun. I gave it 4.5 stars. And I think it was a really good contribution to the universe, and it's definitely good to have that one under your belt before going into the second duology in the series. So yeah. The next book I read after that was Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, and this one is longer. It is just a standalone story, and this one follows a woman who is in like a cult, basically. It is a cult of the Weaver, I believe, who is one of the goddesses in this world. And so she is blind, well, blinded, but like she can like see with her mind in some ways, which is interesting. But she is tasked to kill the vampire conqueror, who is conquering like the entirety of the continent that she's on. Small continent, but still. So she needs to go kill him, and she has to kind of worm her way into him trusting her first. And we all know where that goes. So yeah, it goes where you think. It's very good. I loved the romance, first of all. Loved the romance, but I also loved the adventure that we go on. And I like when a book sets up a character and I don't like them. I did not like this vampire character in the beginning. I was like, this guy's an asshole. We don't like conquerors. And by the end I was like, maybe we like conquerors a little bit, you know? But yeah, I really liked it. Again, I think it's actually crucial reading to start the next duology. And I would highly suggest it either way. But yeah, I also gave this one 4.5 stars. Super enjoyed it, and yeah. And finally, as you can guess, I also read The Songbird and the Heart of Stone and The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk. This is the second duology of the Crowns of Nyaxia series. So we have duology, novella, standalone, duology. This is the Shadowborn duology, following two Shadowborn vampires. Obviously we follow Misha and the guy, what is the word she uses? The warden of the underworld. I gave these 5 stars. I absolutely adored them. I'm like obsessed with them. So this one is the first in this duology. Yes, technically you do kind of have to have read literally all the books before, but this is like it's also its own thing. So this one we follow Misha and Asar, and she is basically saved by him. She gets like he's the bastard son of a king, and he saves her because he needs her to help him travel to the underworld, because she she's like an acolyte of the sun god, basically. And so she has these powers, but kind of not, because now because she's a vampire and her god is like kind of turned on her a little bit, which we saw in the first duology. And so they're traveling through all the layers of the underworld, and I just love that plot. That plot is my favorite. I love underworld stuff and death as a metaphor and stuff like that. Not real life death. I don't like characters dying, but I like characters representing death. I think that's hot, and I like death as a metaphor. So yeah, especially because Asar, you know, represents death, and he's hot in my head. So I really like this one. Obviously, I loved the romance too. It was so sweet, and it reminded me a lot of the Plated Prisoner series. It felt like that mixed with like, it felt like that mixed with A Court of Thorns and Roses. So this was like my favorite thing ever, of course. So good. Highly recommend this duology. This whole series is fantastic, and I love getting to go into the world over and over again and meet new people and see new events and all that good stuff. So yeah, I freaking love these. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I did give these 5 stars. If that was not clear. And that, my friends, is going to do it for this month's wrap up. I hope you enjoyed. Please feel free to let me know if you read any of the same books this month, or what your favorite book was overall, or how many you read, all that good stuff. Feel free to leave me recommendations as well. I'm always taking those too. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.